The morning sun fought through, a veil of dust that hung heavy over the small frontier town of Clearwater. Inside the Golden Spur Saloon, the scent of burnt coffee, whiskey, and cold wood smoke tangled in the air. The night's noise had long faded, leaving behind tired men, nursing their hangovers and a piano that hadn't sung since midnight. Behind the counter, Lila May, the saloon girl with a blue ribbon in her hair, wiped the bar with slow, tired strokes. She'd been up before dawn, sweeping floors, setting chairs, and smiling at men who never smiled back. The world never gave her much, but she learned early to give what she could anyway. That morning, the saloon door swung open and a tall cowboy stepped in. He looked worn, not from drink, but from distance, like a man who had ridden through storms and silence alike. His duster was coated in trail dust, his boots cracked, and his eyes hid stories that didn't want to be told. He sat at a corner table, his hand trembling slightly as he reached for a menu that wasn't there. Lila noticed him instantly, not because of his looks, but because of the quiet around him. Men who carried trouble usually made noise. Men like him carried it in silence. "Morning, stranger," she said softly, bringing a chipped coffee mug to his table. "You look like you could use a meal." He nodded. "Just coffee'll do." His voice was low, steady, polite. Lila frowned. "Coffee won't fix hunger." He gave a tired half smile. "Don't reckon I can afford more than that." Without another word, she turned and told the cook to make the man a plate of eggs, beans, and bread, the kind of meal that could hold a cowboy up for half a day. When the food was ready, she set it in front of him and slipped a nickel onto the counter. "On the house," she said. "Well, more like on me." He looked up, startled. "I can't let you—" "You can," she interrupted gently. "Consider it a good luck breakfast." He ate slowly, like someone who hadn't had a warm meal in weeks. Between bites, he studied her. The gentle steadiness in her eyes, the way her hands trembled only when she thought no one was watching. When he was done, he left without a word, just a small nod. The door closed behind him, and the wind carried a whisper of snow through the saloon doorway. Later that afternoon, as the sun dipped low, word spread through Clearwater. A land baron was coming to town. Half the territory, they said, belonged to him, ranches, mines, and everything in between. Some said he was ruthless. Others said he was a ghost with money. Lila didn't care much. Men with power all looked the same to her. They wore fine hats, heavy boots, and eyes that never saw her. That night, as she sang softly on the saloon stage, the door opened again. The same cowboy walked in, but this time, his dust-stained duster was gone, replaced by a black coat that shimmered like the river under moonlight. Behind him walked two men who clearly worked for him. Every head turned. The whispers began. "That's him, the one who owns half the territory." Lila's voice faltered for just a moment. The man she'd bought breakfast for that morning, the quiet cowboy with hungry eyes, was the richest man for 100 miles. When their eyes met, his look softened. He raised his hat slightly, a silent gesture of respect that made her heart stumble. He didn't say a word that night. Not while she sang, not while the crowd cheered. But when she stepped off the stage, she found an envelope on the bar. Inside were 10 gold coins, and a note that said simply, "For kindness shown when none was owed." She clutched the note, trembling. For the first time in years, someone had seen her, not as a saloon girl, not as a pretty face, but as a person, and she didn't even know his name. The next morning, Clearwater buzzed with talk. The cowboy, now known to everyone as Elias Brandt, the silent cattle baron, had bought the old mill outside town. Some said he was planning to turn it into a trading post. Others claimed he wanted to build a railway stop. But all Lila cared about was the fact that he'd remembered her kindness. She didn't want his money. She wanted to understand why a man with so much had come to her with nothing. By midday, she saw him again, sitting on the same porch where the saloon met the dirt road. Snow had started falling, quiet and thin. She stepped outside, shawl pulled tight. "Didn't expect to see you still in town," she said. He looked up at her and smiled. "Didn't expect to have a reason to stay." Lila hesitated. "You didn't owe me anything. You didn't have to pay me back." "I didn't," he said softly. "That wasn't payment. That was gratitude." For a moment, silence filled the space between them, the kind of silence that said more than words. He stood and offered her a small parcel. Inside was a simple silver hairpin shaped like a horseshoe. "For the woman who gave me luck when I'd lost mine," he said. Her eyes glistened. You make it sound like I did something big. You did, he replied. You reminded me there's still good left in this world. Sometimes that's all a man needs. Days turned into weeks. Lila and Elias met often, sometimes at the saloon, sometimes walking by the frozen river. He told her of his past, how he'd built his empire from nothing, how loneliness grew faster than wealth. She told him of her dreams, owning a small cafe, a place where kindness was served with every plate. He listened as if every word mattered. Then one night, under the lantern glow of the saloon, Elias stood before her and said, Lila, I can build 1,000 ranches and never feel home. But with you, even a dusty saloon feels like heaven. Let me help you build that cafe, not as a gift, but as a start to something new. She laughed softly, eyes bright with tears. And what would people say? The saloon girl and the cattle baron? He stepped closer. They'll say kindness can change a man's world. Months later, a new sign stood where an abandoned shop used to be, Lila's table, open to all. Inside, the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Men and women from across the territory came, not because of the food, but because of the feeling. And sometimes, when the sun dipped low, Elias would walk in, hang his hat, and sit by the window in the richest man in the West, sharing breakfast with the woman who'd once paid for his. And for those who came to hear their story, they'd always end it the same way. Never underestimate the power of one small kindness. It might just buy you a destiny.